I'm Helen Wright, Deputy Editor of Construction Europe and International Constructions magazines, and I'm here at Bauma 2013 on the Cummins stand with Chief Program Engineer Jerl Purcell. I started by asking Jerl about the two new Tier 4 final compliant engines that were launched yesterday at the show. Tier 4 final laws govern exhaust emissions from off-highway diesel engines, and they come into force next year in the US, and the equivalent Stage 4 laws come into force in Europe at the same time.
The first engine we launched yesterday, the QSF 3.8, is our first product launch on the Tier 4 final with that particular displacement range. It has an EGR system on it, but it uses, the interesting part is it has a wastegated turbo. It doesn't rely on a VG to go with the EGR, so it's a very simplistic architecture. It's easy to implement, it's very highly reliable, and it lets us get up to 132 horsepower on that particular displacement node. The other engine we released yesterday, the second one we released, was a completely new release into the market. It's a brand new platform family for Cummins into the market, and it's a 12-liter, but it's playing off of our strengths that we used to have in the Tier 3 product line before, which was the QSM 11. And the QSM 12 is a larger displacement engine, but it's in the same package size as the QSM 11 was. So much more power, goes up to 512 horsepower, 2,300 newton meters of torque, up to 60% torque backup. But the overall size is, if the QSM used to fit in the package, this engine will drop straight in. It's a few millimeters shorter. And the heat rejection package that a lot of customers had in the Tier 3 time frame with no EGR, you can actually revert from the larger systems that people went to at Tier 4 initial back to where we were in the older days with a lower cost installation, smaller radiator size. So that's been accomplished by not using EGR on the engine at all. It does have a DPF and an SCR system, but it allows us to use a wastegated turbocharger, a very straightforward architecture that's easy to install with a very low package size, and it takes the requirements off on the heat rejection as well. So it's very simple to do the installation. It's almost a return to what we used to have at Tier 3 in terms of applications simplicity. A couple things that we did on the engine layout to make it uniquely tailored to the off-highway market was to try to further reduce the package size down for applications that have unique off-highway requirements like 45-degree angularity in all directions. The product as it's pictured here today, I'm not sure if you can see the total product, but the oil pan on this engine is actually the one that we will use in the off-highway market, 45 degrees all directions. But it is the depth of a very shallow pan, so it allows you to put the engine down lower in the installation, and it ends up with a much shorter installed height versus the deep center type of pan configurations. So we took this opportunity on this new engine layout to put in a bunch of features and new technologies that we've explored and been doing in PPT and put it in the actual production environment so it's easier to use in the machines.
So what is SCR, the selective catalytic reduction system that you mentioned just then?
The industry is becoming more familiar with AdBlue and the SCR system. It's being used both on-highway and off-highway in a myriad of applications with engine families across the world. There's a tank that holds the urea. There's a dosing system that's mounted to the tank, and it goes into an after-treatment system. On this engine, we use what we call a modular solution that we can position in various different configurations. Some applications will want them literally side by side. Others will string them out and actually separate them on the vehicle into two different locations. Urea line runs back to the SCR system. It runs itself. The engine control module tells it what to do. There's not a separate controller. It's all integrated in the engine controls package. And once you go through the installation and application work to position the tank and make sure it's mounted and structurally stable, etc., and the development's done, it's relatively simplistic, and there's no servicing required from an end user standpoint. You simply put the AdBlue in the tank and you're done. The engine does the rest for you.
And this engine also uses a DPF, a diesel particulate filter. Can you tell us a little bit about how this is serviced?
Not any different on this engine than our other engines that do use the DPF. It catches all the particulate matter. It regens itself when it needs to. There's a service interval on the DPF system of about 5,000 hours where you either need to stop and clean and remove the ash, and that's been practiced today by the industries, the customers and engines that have already implemented that. But we've also come up with a new program that we're offering to folks that do not want to go through that trouble to clean it. They can simply remove it, and we have an exchange program where we have one that we've done the cleaning on, reconditioned it, and it's just a change out. So take it off, put it back on. It's quite fast to do, and we offer that as a service. Some folks will choose to do that, and others will go through the cleaning themselves. And that's available on all the engines that have a DPF today.
Thank you very much, Jerl, for your time today. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.